So Ed, you just finished building the waterfall that's coming in the pond. We have one more waterfall, and that's the waterfall building out of the biofalls here. We've been building waterfalls now together for a long, long time. Yep. And I would say both of our inspiration comes from nature. Yep. And when we see waterfalls in nature, the most natural looking waterfalls are built out of the fewest amounts of stone. So you look at the waterfall that Ed just finished here, you've got a frame rock on your guy's left, a frame rock on your right, and a stone in between. And so if you think of waterfalls in nature, water erodes down a hillside, leaving back behind the stones it couldn't move. Usually a frame rock, and a spill stone. Sometimes you get lucky and you can get two stones to kind of come together, and we call it a V waterfall, where water just kind of gushes between that area. How you do this is completely up to you, but what we're trying to do is avoid that cobble stacked look, or a bunch of random rocks stacked on top of each other. The other thing, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, was really keeping stone to scale, right? If we have an 18-inch high waterfall right here, we want to get a 19 to 20 inch size boulder off to the left and right without it looking like a field goal post. Right. I don't like this look, but I love the way this is sloped in like that, like the water has kind of eroded this away. And then this one isn't the same height as this one over here. So we don't have that field goal post look. We go up into this area, you can see that Ed has gone ahead and backfilled all of this, basically creating another shelf to work off of. So we're gonna get a nice 2 drops out of here. This one's also a little bit more difficult because we have to build it according to the shape of this biofalls. Where these ones, we had the freedom of really building this waterfall out quite a bit further and then backfilling with gravel. Here, we don't have the luxury of moving this biofalls around back or forward. So we really have to think about how we want to set these rocks in here. Now, a trick both of us use all the time when doing biofalls is cutting and removing this snout. It's going to be easy to find a frame rock to sit right here. It'll be pretty easy to find another frame rock to sit right here. Where it gets difficult is finding the rock to sit here and the other rock to sit here. So if we take our razor blade, we can come in here, cut this off, take our frame rock and just slide it over 2 inches, eliminating this rock and this rock, making it that much easier to build this waterfall.
It's easier and it looks a lot better because it gets away from all that little stuff where the water's flowing.
Yeah, it's a good point. We want to keep it simple. And so little rocks stacked up around in here looks ridiculous. And so we just cut this off, slide it over, and then we look for our spill stone. And I think this is the one. I think we've been eyeing this stone since the day all of our stone got delivered. And I would suggest you guys doing the same thing. When you're looking for your spill stone, especially if you're working with round granite, there's not too many stones that have these flat tops to them, right? So we're looking for some of these flat tops where we can level off this stone and get the water to come off of this evenly. As you guys are going through your rock piles, if you see any split-faced rocks or flatter rocks that you can use for waterfalls, set those aside. Don't bury them down in the bottom of the pond where you can't get to them later. All right, let's go ahead. Cut. I think we cut this off. We'll size this thing accordingly, and then we'll get our frame rocks in here. So I so love this part of the project. Everything starts coming together. Our pond is filled completely up. Pretty soon I can start working on edges over in here and getting those finished. Ed has done an amazing job with the waterfall. Again, look at the simplicity of it. Large rock, a rock in between. Large rock to scale with the size of this fall, a rock in between, another large rock over here. And then he even went as far as starting to add what we call the wing walls or the support rocks that are gonna go out past the waterfall. If you look at this area here, we probably just got a couple more that are gonna help retain this soil, this berm up in here. As Ed continues to do that, Colleen's gonna come in here and start sealing up this waterfall. And what I mean by sealing the waterfall is if I were to turn this on right now, I don't know if you guys can see it from your angle, but right in here, there's a big gravel void. As that water comes up through our biofalls, through the filter media, it's gonna find this big gravel void, and all of that water is gonna penetrate through that gravel and go underneath this rock and shoot out that way. We don't want that to happen. We want all of that water to come up and pour over this way. So we use our black expanding polyurethane waterfall foam and we seal this right in here. Notice that I've kept the gravel a little lower than the lip of the biofall, allowing for a little bit of real estate for that foam to sit in here. So we're gonna do a nice even bed over all of this. Once we get back into here, we can stop, maybe a little bit more just right over the top. Nice. Now don't worry, if you put down a little bit too much, once this stuff is dry, you can come back and actually cut it away. The bigger mistake is not to put enough, because if you miss a little spot, that water going through a hole about the size of this could be a good 500, 800 gallons of water not going over the top of my waterfall. So we're using a 2,000 gallon per hour pump. The rule of thumb when trying to figure out what size pump for what size waterfall is this. We want to do at least the very, very, very minimum 1,000 gallons of water per foot width of waterfall. So if I have a 2 foot wide waterfall, I want at least 2,000 gallons. We personally here at Aquascape like to up that a little bit more to 1,500 gallons of water per hour per foot width. So a 2 foot wide waterfall, we get at least 3,000 gallons. Here we have about 12 inches. So we're pretty good. 2,000 gallons of water an hour coming out over this, dropping into here, and then coming back over in there. The style both Ed and I like building waterfalls is to condense it a little bit more, causing the water to be thicker, which gives a totally different sound than spreading that waterfall out with thinner water. So we're gonna let this dry. I'm gonna show you guys something now. If I touch it now, it'll stick to my hands. If we wait about another 15 to 20 minutes, this almost gets like a leather skin over the top of it, and I can actually come and kind of push that stuff back into place. If you get it on your finger like this, it's gonna be on there for at least a week. That looks great. So it's nice again about the kit. Everything we need to build the pond, minus the rocks and the gravel, is in the kit, including your waterfall foam. You need this to build the pond. Without this, this waterfall wouldn't work. So this can is gonna be just enough, if not more than enough, to build the size waterfall you want to. Now, if we were building a 10, 15 foot long stream, you might order some extra cans of this. This can too is also a one-time use only can. Once you've started foaming something, make sure all of your foaming's done. You can't come back an hour and a half later and reuse this can. Everything in here starts drying up and it becomes garbage. So make sure when you're ready to foam, you foam everything at the same time. So Ed's trimming a piece of fabric to go over this. At the same time, I'm coming back in over here. And remember when I told you there's a point where I can come in here and actually push this foam back down? It gets that skin on there without getting anything on your hand. This is that time. So this stuff does expand, and it'll expand quite a bit. Here, to eliminate or reduce the amount it's gonna expand, we're actually gonna take a piece of fabric, lay it right over the top of the foam while it's still sticky and wet. This will allow Ed to kind of compact it and push it down in there without having to wait for this to dry up. Then we'll come right back over the top of that fabric with a little bit of gravel